All right, let's dive into Zero to One by Peter Thiel.
It's a good one.
Really going to dig into this one because, uh, you know, our listener wants to understand startups better, venture capital, how to actually, build a business, a successful business in the 21st century.
Yeah.
And
Seems like the right guy to learn
I
from.
mean, the guy, Peter Thiel, co-founded PayPal, Palantir,
Yeah.
early investor in Facebook and SpaceX.
I mean, he's been in the trenches. He's not just
You've been there, done that.
armchair quarterbacking this. He's done it.
Okay.
And I think one of the most powerful ideas, just right out of the gate with 0 to 1, is this idea of creating something truly new,
Well,
going from 0 to 1, as opposed to just copying something that already exists.
so not just taking something that works and like spreading it around globalization, but like
Right.
coming up with something completely new.
Yeah.
But isn't that happening all the time? Like we've got new phones, new apps every day.
Well, and that's where Thiel would say, like, you have to get a little more specific about what you mean by innovation.
Okay.
Because he would say that real progress, 0 to 1 progress, is driven by technological innovation.
Okay.
And when he says technology, he doesn't just mean computers or software.
Yep.
Think back to the steam engine.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't a piece of software, but it totally transformed industries.
Yeah.
It propelled society forward.
So we're talking game changers, not just...
Yeah, he would say, like, that's
Okay.
real progress.
Got it.
Um,
But then he says that monopolies can actually be a good thing.
yeah.
And that kind of threw me off because we're always told that competition is king, right?
Yeah, and he acknowledges that in a world where nothing changes, monopolies are just rent collectors, right?
Okay.
They just kind of sit there and extract value.
Right.
But in a dynamic world, he says, creative monopolies are the ones that bring real value
Okay.
and push progress forward.
So is he saying that a company like Apple with the iPhone,
He would, yes.
that was a good monopoly?
He would say that's a perfect example.
Okay.
Because, they created something dramatically better.
Right.
A real leap forward.
Not just copying what other phones were doing.
Right. Exactly. They had a period of dominance, sure,
Yeah.
but they earned it by bringing something genuinely new and desirable.
Right.
And society benefited,
Right.
even if Apple reaped huge rewards.
But then doesn't that stifle competition? I mean, competition is supposed to be the engine of innovation, right?
And that's where his analogy of competition as war comes in.
Okay.
And he uses Microsoft and Google, of all things.
Okay.
Like he compares them to the Montagues and Capulets from Romeo and Juliet.
All right. Now, I'm interested. How does Shakespeare
It's a great analogy, though.
fit into all this?
Because think about it. Microsoft and Google were locked in this epic battle.
Yeah.
For market share, whether it was search engines, operating systems. They were so focused on each other that they missed what Apple was doing with the iPhone. And both sides were so busy fighting that they missed the real opportunity.
And Apple just sailed past them.
Totally. And ultimately, both sides lost.
Yeah, they became the most valuable company for a while.
Right.
So he's saying that sometimes being too focused on your rivals...
Can actually make you miss the bigger picture.
Yeah.
You're so busy fighting over scraps
Yeah.
that you don't build something truly valuable.
It's like keep your eye on the prize, not the competition.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay,
Okay, so that brings us to the power law,
yeah.
which seems to be a big theme in the book.
Huge.
So he's saying that in many areas, like startups and venture capital, a small number of companies, a small number of investments
Right.
create the majority of the value.
That's right.
Okay.
So you think about it this way.
Yeah.
If you were investing in startups, would you rather spread your money across dozens of companies,
Right?
hoping that a few do okay?
Yeah.
Or would you try to find the few
The giants.
that have the potential to be massive, game-changing giants?
I go for the giants.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
And that's essentially what Thiel's firm Founders Fund does.
Okay.
They look for those rare companies.
Yeah.
And the companies that are perfect examples of that, Facebook and Palantir,
Okay.
prime examples of the power law in action.
So recognizing that not all opportunities
Are created equal.
are equal, right?
Some have the potential to be exponentially more impactful.
Got it.
Um,
How do you spot those opportunities in the first place?
well, he talks about the importance of definite optimism.
Okay.
And he contrasts this with what he calls indefinite optimism.
Okay.
And you see indefinite optimism a lot in Silicon Valley and finance,
Oh.
where people just expect things to get better,
Right.
but they don't really have a plan for how that's going to happen.
So definite optimism is about having a vision and a plan.
A plan to make it happen.
To make it happen.
Yeah, like think of the Panama Canal, the Manhattan Project, putting a man on the moon.
Right.
Ambitious goals, audacious goals even, but they were achieved.
Through planning and focused effort.
Yeah, wow, that's pretty cool.
That's definite optimism
Okay.
in action.
I'm starting to see how these ideas kind of connect.
Yeah.
Okay. But then there's this whole thing about secrets.
The secret.
He says that every great business is built around a secret.
Yeah.
Something hidden from the outside world.
Right.
That seems a little...
mysterious.
Yeah.
Well, think about it this way.
Okay.
If you believe that everything worth knowing is already known,
Right.
then there's basically no room for radical innovation.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you believe that there are still secrets out there to be uncovered, then you're open to exploring uncharted territory.
Like the greatest discoveries.
Exactly.
Are yet to be made.
Yeah, you need to believe that there's something hidden, something waiting to be unlocked.
Even if nobody else sees it.
Even if everybody else thinks you're crazy.
Yeah.
You know, take Andrew Wiles, the mathematician who proved Fermat's last theorem.
After centuries of other mathematicians failing,
Right.
he had to believe there was a solution, a secret waiting to be unlocked.
Wow. Okay.
Even when everyone else thought it was impossible.
Okay, so speaking of teams,
Yes.
Thiel emphasizes the importance of choosing the right people
Oh, absolutely.
to build a company with.
Yeah.
He even compares choosing a co-founder to getting married.
He does, yeah.
Is he being a little dramatic, or is there something to that?
Well, he's definitely emphasizing the importance of the founding team.
Okay.
The foundation of any successful startup.
Right.
And, you know, if you're not aligned with your co-founder,
Yeah.
if there's conflict or miscommunication,
Right.
it can be just as devastating as a bad marriage.
So finding the right partners is crucial.
Absolutely critical.
Okay, and then there's the whole issue of equity.
Right.
How do you divide up ownership?
The equity question.
He says it can be a minefield if not handled carefully.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Figuring out who gets what percentage of the company and when.
Right.
It can lead to tension and resentment if
Yeah.
it's not handled well.
Yeah, so it's got to be carefully considered.
Absolutely.
And you know what's interesting is for a tech investor,
Yeah,
he really emphasizes sales and distribution.
he does.
Like, he argues that even the best product won't succeed if you can't get it in the hands of customers.
He uses this funny example from The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy to illustrate this point.
Okay.
He talks about how Earth was founded by a spaceship
Okay.
full of salespeople
What?
who were tricked into leaving their original planet.
Okay.
So it's this funny way of saying
Okay.
that you got to be able to sell.
Sales are important.
Even though we don't always like to talk about it.
Yeah.
You can't just build it and expect them to come.
You got to go out there and sell it.
Find the right channels.
Find those channels.
To reach your audience.
To reach your people.
And he introduces this concept of the power law of distribution, which means that for any business, there's usually one distribution channel that's way more effective than all the others.
It's about finding the one that really works.
Exactly.
And focusing your energy there.
And he uses the clean tech bubble of the mid-2000s as a cautionary tale.
Okay.
Because even though there was huge potential in clean energy, a lot of companies failed because they didn't have the fundamentals in place.
So even being in a booming industry, just riding that trend is not enough.
Not at all.
Okay.
He uses these 7 key questions to sort of break down these failures.
Right.
Was the technology really innovative? Was the timing right? Did they have the right team, the right distribution strategy? Was the market big enough?
So many questions.
Yeah. And a lot of companies, he argues, stumbled on multiple fronts. You know, they overestimated their market size.
Right.
They underestimated the competition. They didn't have an effective distribution strategy.
So they were just they were there for the ride. But
We're riding the wave.
they didn't actually think through how to build a business.
Exactly. And he contrasts this with Tesla, who seemed to get a lot of these things right, even though they were operating in the same environment.
So what did Tesla do differently?
Well, they had a superior product. They understood the importance of timing. They were able to get a crucial government loan at just the right moment.
Right.
When clean tech was politically popular.
Right.
They built a strong brand and distribution network.
Okay.
Things that a lot of other clean tech companies struggled with.
So they thought through all these different elements.
Yeah, they didn't just rely on good intentions.
Right.
They actually built a solid business.
With a differentiated product.
And a clear path to market.
Okay, so even in an industry like clean tech, where there's this huge societal need, you still have to do those
You
things.
still have to build a company.
You can't just rely on good intentions.
That's right.
Got it.
And this leads to another interesting aspect of his thinking, which is his view on the relationship between humans and computers.
Okay.
He believes that the future lies in complementarity,
Okay.
not competition.
Okay.
So instead of fearing computers replacing humans,
Right.
we should focus on building tools that augment human capabilities.
So instead of asking, will robots take our jobs,
Hmm.
we should be asking, how can we use technology to do our jobs better, to solve bigger problems, to reach new heights?
Right, right.
It's about collaboration,
Okay,
not substitution.
got it.
And Thiel would say that focusing on how computers can help humans solve hard problems
Yeah,
is a much more productive way to think about it
right.
than just fixating on AI fears.
Yeah, and this perspective has implications for business
Totally.
and innovation.
How we approach everything. It's
Yeah.
about using technology to enhance our capability.
Not to replace us.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay.
And this leads to one of the most intriguing concepts in the book,
Okay.
which he calls the founder's paradox. The founder's paradox.
He observed that successful founders often exhibit...
They're a little crazy, right?
Yeah.
I've heard that about some tech founders.
Well, it's a little more nuanced than that.
Okay.
He argues that they're both insiders and outsiders.
Okay.
They understand the rules of the game, but they're also willing to break them.
Right.
They attract praise and criticism,
Okay.
and they often defy expectations.
Right.
So he points to people like Richard Branson, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs,
Yeah.
incredibly successful,
Yeah.
but also had their share of controversy.
Yeah. Unconventional, right?
Unconventional, yeah.
Okay.
But all of these individuals were incredibly talented and driven,
Yeah.
but they possess this rebellious streak,
Okay.
a willingness to challenge the status quo and push boundaries.
Right.
They were often misunderstood early on, even ridiculed,
Right.
but their belief in their vision ultimately led them to achieve extraordinary things.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So-
So these founders weren't afraid to be different, to go against the grain.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something you can learn? Or is that just something you're born with, that mentality?
You know, Thiel doesn't necessarily say it's one or the other, but he does suggest that successful founders have a knack for building strong company cultures,
Okay.
often modeled after their own personalities and values.
Okay.
It's almost like they create these mini kingdoms where they're the benevolent ruler.
A benevolent dictator.
Yeah, but
Isn't that a bit outdated in today's world?
you know, we often think of companies as these large, impersonal bureaucracies, but the most innovative ones
Yeah.
tend to have a very strong founder-centric culture.
Okay.
And it makes sense, if you think about it, in the early days of a company.
Yeah.
When there's so much uncertainty and you're moving fast,
Right.
having a clear leader
Right.
who can make quick decisions
Right.
is essential.
So the founder sets the tone,
The vision.
the values.
And everyone else aligns around that.
Okay.
And as the company grows, that culture gets embedded in the DNA of the organization.
But what happens when the founder is gone? Does the company lose its magic?
That's a great question, and it's something Thiel explores through several high-profile founders,
Okay.
including Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs, right?
Remember, he was actually forced out of Apple,
Oh, yeah, that was a big deal.
the company he founded.
Right. Right.
Everyone thought Apple was doomed
Yeah.
without him.
But then he came back years later
He did.
and led Apple to its most successful era,
Yeah,
introducing products like the iPod, the iPhone, the iPad.
the classic comeback story.
It really underscores this point about the unique and often irreplaceable role of the founder.
It's like he had this understanding of technology and design,
This intuition.
this intuition that allowed him to take these risks that nobody else would.
Totally.
He was a visionary.
He was.
So going back to your benevolent dictator analogy,
Yeah.
he was the king of his Apple kingdom. I mean, he definitely had that.
Yeah, but what about the future?
Yeah.
I mean, this book is about building the future.
Right.
Where does he see humanity heading in the long run?
Well, he tackles this by looking at 4 different scenarios,
Okay.
drawing on the work of philosopher Nick Bostrom.
Okay.
So the first scenario is recurrent collapse,
Okay.
where civilizations rise and fall.
Like a never-ending loop.
Yeah, in a continuous cycle
Okay.
of progress and destruction.
Right.
The second scenario is plateau,
Plateau. Okay.
where progress slows down
Okay.
and we hit a wall.
Okay.
Technological and economic stagnation.
Right.
Not exactly an exciting future.
No. Not really.
And then the third scenario, and this is the one we all want to avoid,
The big one.
is extinction.
Theme over.
Yeah. Humanity wipes itself out
Right.
through some catastrophic event or our own actions.
Right, okay.
And then the fourth scenario,
a good one, hopefully.
well, the singularity.
The singularity, where things get really crazy.
Technology advances so rapidly, it becomes almost incomprehensible.
AI surpasses human intelligence.
Right.
And we don't know what happens after that.
The future becomes totally unpredictable.
Okay, so we got
So we got a pretty wide range
a wide range of possibilities.
of possibilities here
Total collapse.
to a future beyond our wildest dreams.
So which one does he think is most likely?
You know, he doesn't necessarily pick a favorite.
Okay.
He does suggest that while recurrent collapse might be less likely in today's world,
Okay.
where knowledge is so widely dispersed,
Right.
extinction
Still a threat.
remains a very real threat,
Yeah.
especially given our ability to manipulate the natural world.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But he's not a fan of the plateau scenario either.
Right. Stagnation doesn't really fit with 0 to 1.
Definitely not. He believes that the future will either be significantly better
Okay.
or significantly worse
Oh,
than the present.
It's one or the other.
He's a definite optimist, remember?
Right.
But he emphasizes that we have a choice in shaping that future.
They're not just passive passengers along for the ride.
Exactly. We have the power to steer clear of extinction and stagnation.
But how?
He argues that the key is to focus on building a better future.
Okay.
A future where we leverage technology and innovation
Right.
to solve the world's most pressing problems.
Okay.
And he sees entrepreneurs as the drivers of that progress.
But isn't entrepreneurship already happening everywhere?
Oh, sure.
But what's different about what he's talking about?
It's not just about starting any company.
Right.
It's about building companies that are truly transformative, companies that solve real problems, create new value,
Right.
and push the boundaries of what's possible.
So not the next trendy app or gadget.
Right. Companies that are fundamentally changing the world
Changing the world.
to the better
Okay, so that's the kind of entrepreneurship
that he's advocating for.
that he's advocating for, all right?
It's about building a future
Yeah.
that's worthy of our dreams and aspirations.
Yeah.
Where we're not just surviving,
Right.
but thriving.
Okay.
And he believes we all have a role to play in creating that future.
That's a powerful message.
It is.
But he also acknowledges
Yeah.
that building a successful company, creating something truly new, is incredibly difficult.
He doesn't sugarcoat it, no.
No.
It requires a unique combination of talent, ambition, resilience, and maybe even a touch of madness.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to go against the grain,
Right.
challenge conventional wisdom,
Yeah.
and embrace uncertainty.
So maybe that's why those founder paradox traits he talked about are so important.
Got to be a little different, yeah,
Yeah.
to really make a dent in the universe.
Yeah, but it's inspiring to think that individuals have that power
It is.
to make that kind of impact.
It's a really thought-provoking book.
It is.
It's a call to action.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that the future isn't predetermined.
Yeah.
It's something we create,
Okay.
one bold idea at a time.
All right, so we talked about monopolies and competition,
Mhm.
definite optimism, secrets, power law. There's so much in this book.
Yeah, it's packed.
What does it all actually mean for someone like me? What's the takeaway?
It's a call to action.
Okay.
He's urging us to think differently.
Okay.
Question the assumptions we take for granted.
Okay.
Go searching for hidden truths.
So not just reading the book and nodding along.
No. He wants you to apply these ideas to your own life,
Okay.
to your goals and ambitions.
All right, how do we do that?
He wants you to ask yourself, what unique knowledge or skills do you have?
Right.
What problem are you passionate about solving?
Okay.
Do you have a secret, an idea that others might dismiss,
Right.
but you truly believe in?
He also emphasizes timing, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Certain opportunities might only come around once.
Or it might not be the right time for a particular path.
Right, like how Tesla got that government loan at just the right time.
Exactly, when clean tech was still hot.
Yeah, okay.
Timing is everything.
But it's also about having the right team.
Absolutely. You need to surround yourself with people who share your vision,
Yeah.
who are equally committed to achieving it.
And not just yes men.
No, you need people who will challenge you,
Right.
push you to be better.
He seems to really believe in the power of small teams
Yeah, tightly knit.
working towards a common purpose.
If you want to go fast, go alone.
Right.
If you want to go far, go together.
I like that. Okay.
And don't underestimate the importance of distribution.
Right.
You might have the most brilliant idea in the world.
Yeah.
If you can't get it in front of the right people,
It's not going anywhere.
it's gonna go nowhere.
So finding that one channel that really works.
Like we were saying, the power law of distribution.
Focus your energy where it makes the biggest impact.
Right. And don't forget sales.
Sales.
Even if you have the most innovative products,
Gotta convince people to buy it.
you have to tell your story in a way that resonates, that makes them believe.
Okay.
It's about building a movement.
Yeah.
A community.
A community of believers.
Of believers around your idea.
I like that.
Yeah.
So we talked about Thiel being a definite optimist.
Right.
Does he ever address the possibility of failure?
He does.
Because not every startup is going to be the next.
Facebook or Tesla.
Right, exactly.
He definitely acknowledges the risks and challenges.
Okay.
But I think his message is ultimately one of hope.
Okay.
He argues that stagnation is more likely than extinction.
That's an interesting way to put it.
It might sound strange at first,
Yeah.
but it makes sense when you think about it.
Okay.
We have the knowledge and the resources
To solve a lot of the world's problems.
but we often lack the will or the imagination.
Okay.
We get stuck in this cycle of just copying what's already been done.
So he's saying we need to break free from that.
Break free from that mindset.
Be bolder, more ambitious.
Embrace that 0 to 1 mindset.
Look for those opportunities to make a real difference.
That's what he's urging us to do.
Okay, it's a little daunting, but also inspiring
It is.
that we have the potential to shape the future.
Even in a small way.
Yeah.
You know, his book is really a challenge.
Yeah.
To think bigger, be more creative,
Right.
push the boundaries.
Find your 0 to 1 moment.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we covered a lot of ground here today.
We did.
This is great.
Good stuff.
Thanks for taking me through 0 to 1.
My pleasure.
Just giving me a lot to think about.
Good. Good.
And remember,
Yes.
the future is not predetermined.
It's up to us to create it.
It's something we create, so go out there and build something amazing.
Build something amazing.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into 0 to 1.
Absolutely.
We hope you found it insightful and inspiring.
Hope you enjoyed it.
Until next time.
See you later.
So these founders,
Yeah.
they weren't afraid to be different, to go against the grain.
Yeah.
Is that something you can learn?
It's a good question.
Or are you just born with it? That founder mentality.
Thiel doesn't necessarily say it's one or the other,
Okay.
but he does suggest that the most successful founders have a knack for building strong company cultures.
Okay.
And those cultures are often modeled after
Oh.
their own personalities, values.
yeah.
So it's almost like they create these mini kingdoms.
Okay,
right?
so they're like the benevolent ruler.
Yeah, making all the important decisions.
A benevolent dictator, maybe?
Yeah, maybe.
But isn't that a bit outdated
Well,
in today's world?
you know, we think of companies as these large,
Right.
impersonal bureaucracies.
Right.
But the most innovative companies, he would say,
Yeah.
tend to have a very strong founder-centric culture.
Okay.
And it makes sense when you think about it, especially in those early days
Yeah.
when there's so much uncertainty. You're moving really fast.
Right.
You need someone who can make decisions quickly.
So the founder sets the tone,
Sets the vision.
sets the vision, the values,
The values.
and everyone else aligns around that.
Yeah, and as the company grows,
Right.
that culture
Right.
becomes embedded in the DNA of the organization.
But what happens when the founder's gone?
Right.
Does the company lose its magic?
That's a great question. And Thiel actually explores this through the lens of several high-profile founders,
Okay.
including Steve Jobs,
Steve Jobs.
who, remember, was forced out of Apple,
He was. Yeah.
which he founded.
I mean, everybody thought Apple was doomed
Right.
without him.
But then he came back
Years later.
and led them to probably their most successful era.
It is the classic comeback story.
Right. It's this classic comeback story, and it really underscores
Right.
Thiel's point about the unique
Okay.
and often irreplaceable role of the founder.
It's like he had this intuitive understanding
What's intuition?
of technology and design
Yeah.
that nobody else had.
Totally.
He was a visionary.
He was.
So going back to your benevolent dictator analogy,
Yeah.
he was the king of his Apple kingdom.
He was.
But what about the future?
Right.
I mean, this whole book is about building the future.
Yeah.
Where does he see humanity heading?
Well, he tackles this by looking at 4 scenarios.
Okay.
And he draws on the work of the philosopher Nick Bostrom.
Okay.
So the first scenario
Right.
is recurrent collapse.
Recurrent collapse.
So this is where civilizations rise and fall
Like a never-ending loop.
in a continuous cycle
Ups and downs.
of progress and destruction.
Okay.
The second scenario is plateau,
Bucko. All right.
where progress slows down.
Okay.
We hit a wall,
Okay.
and we just kind of have this
Coke.
technological and economic stagnation.
Not very exciting.
Not a very thrilling future.
No.
And then the third scenario, and this is the one we all want to avoid,
Yeah, this is the big one.
is extinction.
Game over.
Humanity wipes itself out,
Right.
whether through some catastrophic event or our own actions.
Right.
And then the fourth scenario is the singularity.
The singularity. All right. That's where things get a little crazy.
Yeah, technology advances so rapidly that it becomes almost incomprehensible.
Okay.
AI surpasses human intelligence,
Right.
and it's very hard to predict what happens after that.
So it's either
Like
total collapse.
or a future beyond our wildest imagination.
All right. So those are the four. But which one?
Which one's the most likely?
Yeah. Does he give us any hints?
He doesn't necessarily pick a favorite,
Okay.
but he does suggest that recurrent collapse might be less likely
Okay.
in today's world
Wow.
where knowledge is so widely dispersed.
Right.
But extinction
Yeah. Still on the table.
remains a very real threat,
Okay.
especially given our ability to manipulate the natural world.
Right.
He's not a fan of the plateau scenario either.
No, stagnation doesn't really fit with 0 to 1.
He believes that the future will either be significantly better
But-
or significantly worse
Let's say
than the present.
it's one extreme or the other.
He's a definite optimist, remember?
Right. Right.
But he emphasizes that we have a choice. In shaping that future,
Okay.
we're not just passive passengers.
So we have the power to steer clear of extinction
And stagnation.
and stagnation. But how?
He says the key is to focus on building a better future.
Okay.
A future where we use technology
Right.
and innovation to solve problems.
Right.
And he sees entrepreneurs
Yeah.
as the drivers of that progress.
But entrepreneurship is already happening everywhere.
Yeah.
So what's different about what he's talking about?
It's not just about starting any company.
Right.
It's about building companies that are truly transformative.
Okay.
Companies that solve real problems,
Okay.
create new value,
Okay.
push the boundaries of what's possible.
So not the next trendy app.
Right.
Not the next, gadget.
It's about companies that fundamentally change the world
Okay. Change the world. Got it.
for the better.
All right. So that's the kind of entrepreneurship
And he's advocating for.
he's advocating for. Okay.
It's about building a future that's worthy of our dreams and aspirations, where we're not just surviving,
Right.
but thriving.
Okay.
And he believes that we all have a role to play in creating that.
That's a pretty powerful message.
It is.
But he also acknowledges that building a successful company,
Mm.
creating something truly new, is really difficult.
It's really hard.
Yeah.
He doesn't sugarcoat it.
Right.
He's very clear about that. It takes a unique combination of talent, ambition, resilience,
Okay.
and maybe even a touch of madness.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to go against the grain,
Right.
challenge conventional wisdom,
Right.
embrace uncertainty.
And you have to be okay with maybe failing.
Yeah, there's a lot of risk involved.
Maybe that's why those founder paradox traits are so important.
You gotta be a little different
Yeah.
to make a dent in the universe.
But it's also inspiring to think that we have that power as individuals
It is.
to make that kind of impact.
It's a very thought-provoking book.
It is.
A call to action.
Yeah.
A reminder that the future isn't predetermined.
Right.
It's something we create.
One bold idea at a time.
So we talked about monopolies and competition and definite optimism and secrets and power law. There's so much in this book. But what does it all actually mean for someone like me? What's the takeaway?
Well, it's a call to action, really.
Okay.
Thiel is urging us to think differently.
Okay.
Question assumptions.
Assumptions that we take for granted.
Yeah.
Okay.
To go searching for those hidden truths that everyone else might be overlooking.
So it's not just about reading the book and nodding along.
No.
It's about actually applying these ideas to our own lives, to our own goals, ambitions.
To your own life, exactly.
Okay, so how do we do that?
Well, he wants you to ask yourself, what unique knowledge or skills do I have?
Okay.
What problem am I passionate about solving?
Okay.
Do I have a secret? An idea that others might dismiss,
Right.
but that I truly believe in?
He also emphasizes timing, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Recognizing that certain opportunities might only come around once.
Or it might not be the right time for a particular path. Right? Like how Tesla was able to secure that government loan at just the right time.
Exactly. When clean tech was still a hot topic.
And it was politically popular.
Yeah.
Yeah, timing is everything.
Timing is everything, but it's also about having the right team in place.
Okay.
You need to surround yourself with people who share your vision,
Right.
who are equally committed to achieving it.
And not just yes men.
No, you need people who will challenge you, who will push you to be better.
He seems to really believe in the power of small, tightly knit teams.
Small teams, yeah.
Working together toward a common purpose.
It's like that old saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
I like that.
And don't underestimate the importance of distribution.
Right.
You might have the most brilliant idea in the world, but if you can't get it in front of the right people, it's not going to go anywhere.
So finding that one channel that really works for your product or service.
That's right.
The power law of distribution.
I'm
You got to focus your energy where it makes the biggest impact.
Exactly. And don't forget sales.
Sales.
Even if you have the most innovative product in the world, you need to be able to convince people to buy it.
Right.
You have to learn to tell your story in a way that resonates, that makes people believe in what you're doing.
It's about building a movement, really.
That's your movement.
A community of believers around your idea.
Absolutely.
But going back to what you said earlier about Thiel being a definite optimist, does he ever address the possibility of failure?
Oh, he does.
Because not every startup is going to be the next Facebook or Tesla.
He definitely acknowledges the risks and challenges,
Okay.
but his message is ultimately one of hope, I think.
Yeah.
He argues that stagnation is more likely than extinction.
Which is interesting because, with climate change and everything.
It might sound strange at first,
Yeah.
but it makes sense when you think about it. We have the knowledge, we have the resources to solve so many of the world's problems.
Right.
But we often lack the will, the imagination to do so.
Right. We get stuck in our ways.
Yeah, we get stuck in this cycle of just copying what's already been done.
So he's saying that we need to break free from that mindset.
Break free from that mindset.
We need to be bolder, more ambitious in our thinking.
Embrace that 0 to 1 mindset.
Look for those opportunities to make a real difference.
Exactly.
Okay. It's a little daunting, but also inspiring, I think,
Yeah, it is.
that we have that potential to shape the future.
Even in a small way.
Yeah.
His book is really a challenge to think bigger, to be more creative, to push the boundaries of what's possible.
To find your own 0 to 1 moment.
To find your own 0 to 1 moment. Exactly.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today. Thanks for guiding me through this deep dive into 0 to 1. It's definitely given me a lot to think about.
My pleasure. And remember, the future is not predetermined. It's something we create.
So go out there and build something amazing.
Build something amazing.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into 0 to 1. We hope you found it insightful and inspiring. Until next time.